Hello, everybody. Let's exit to port. It is currently the 23rd of January, 2024. It is 13:59, about to be 1400 Central European Time as of this recording. As of when you're listening, who knows? I mean, 10 years down the line, 30 years down the line, if you're listening to this, I'm still sorry. Somebody who usually is never sorry because whenever he does shenanigans, it often leads to content. My dwarf, I don't know where I'm going with this. Grumbles, hi.
Oh, hello. Are we still here? I remember 10 years ago when Tiger started this introduction. Greetings, everybody.
It's not that long. That's what she said. Hello, and welcome to Season 4 of Exit to Port. Like, Season 4? Really?
Crazy.
Every single time I think about how long we've been doing this, or how long we've been doing the grumbling, or similar, I'm like, why? What's going on? How? This is insane. It's nuts. I don't understand it, but I'm here for it, you know? And it just brings a smile to my face every time I think about it. But before we move on to our topics, for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see them on screen. For those of you listening on things like Spotify, you can probably find it in the description. I'm not sure about other services, but we have a premium service. It's known as Patreon. And for a measly $2 a month, you can support the podcast. And yeah, so patreon.com/exit2port. That's EXITTOPORT. Exit to port. And you can support us there. And for now, we can at least guarantee that you'll get your comment or a question in on every episode. For the future, if we start getting a lot of patrons, we might do some exclusives and other things there. So please, if you feel like supporting us outside of Twitch or other things, then this is a good place to do it. Because the times, they are a-changing, or something. I don't know where that song came from. I have no idea. But yeah, a sign of the times are changing is the fact that we had our first Sunday grumbling. In fact, 2 days ago.
Yes.
Because for a while we've been talking about wanting to try different games, and with my change in schedule, where Monday through Friday from morning to about midday, I like it's my need to do time. That kind of interferes with one of our staples, which has been the grumbling, which has been on Fridays. But this has proven an excellent opportunity of trying something else, and Sunday mornings was a time where we found out that, yeah, this might work. Grumpy said it might work for him too. We tested it out, and suddenly, 5 hours later, 3 dwarves emerge from the sunlight, or from the darkness into the sunlight of the real world, and be like, when did it get to be 1500 suddenly? My God, that game, it soaks up hours, huh?
Yep. No, it was superlative fun, and very much so the way we went about it as well. The slower pace and immersing ourselves while we learned as we went along as well. It was very, very enjoyable.
Very enjoyable indeed. And just as a Lord of the Rings fan, just walking around in there and seeing Moria, seeing these things they've created, and the visuals, and being allowed inside maybe one of the more mythical places in the Lord of the Rings universe. Like it's only described in legend by some of the people that we follow and we talk to in the adventures, both in the Hobbit and in Lord of the Rings. It's just it's this weird giant place where you have the giant seed of dwarves, and they can dig, and we all know what happens when they dig too deeply, too greedily and too deep. But it's just to be able to be there.
Yep.
Oh, so good.
Yep.
So good.
I really enjoyed how they captured the scale of it as well. Like I felt like we spent several hours going slowly, getting in a few fights, gathering some things, building some things up and whatnot to sleep the night. And it felt like a proper, like, to me, it felt very much Lord of the Rings, but I'm in a D&D adventure.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
You know, I'm doing a dungeon crawl. I need to take a short rest or a long rest every once in a while. You don't quite know what's around the corner. The fact that you've got the constant threat of the enemies just popping up either where you're at, or even at the same time back at your base and breaking in and stealing all your stuff, or smashing things up and everything. It's I think that's adding a really great dimension to it, keeping it very, very dynamic, and yeah, it's just super, super fun. And I was really genuinely taken aback by how little we had progressed in terms of the actual location and the scale of Moria and what we were in. I was like, oh, it's been a few hours, and then, oh no, wait, if we just run over here for like 5 minutes, we're back where we started. It was, and that kind of was, I know, again, we were deliberately going slow pace to have more fun, but I really appreciate and enjoyed that, because so many games you can run for hours and hours and hours and just be bored, you know.
Yeah,
and this
nothing
game
to see.
Yeah,
nothing to interact
and
with.
in other games you can be bored because it's like everything's just around the next corner, around the next corner, around the next corner. And this one's got this amazing kind of magical balance between you're just going around the next corner, but you never quite know what's going to be there, but it'll be enough. Because it'll either be something to look at and find and see, or something to do like a little side quest, or, you know, a chest to open or something like that. Or it'll just be the constant, well, we've got to keep going deeper and further into the mines. And there's the main story pops up occasionally, but doesn't get in your face, so you're not being railroaded along. And yeah, and then I like that. I really enjoy games that let you choose a pace, and you can choose to be as slow as you want or speed it up a little bit if you want to. So superb.
The beautiful scenery of coming around a bend or digging through one of these dirt walls,
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing this hallway with dwarves, like giant dwarf statues on each side that hold these lanterns, and you're kind of standing there and going, whoa, I'm really here, dude. And it's just so fantastic, you know, because it's just so it's majestic, for the lack of a better term. And like you say, like, there's so many things to explore with, you know, learning how to craft different things, or finding the different recipes from times forgotten, pretty much.
Yeah.
And seeing these enormous gates and hallways and such, and fighting off the intruders that have kind of settled there because the dwarves aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just it's glorious. It's so glorious. And one of the things that I enjoy is also, it's a perfect game for kind of learning as you go. Like, you don't feel like, oh, this piece here that is standing over there, it's telling you everything you need to know about how to get to it. No, it's like, okay, for this you need a steel hammer. Oh, how do I get a steel hammer? That means I need to learn how to make steel. I don't know how to make steel.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
I get steel? And then, but it kind of trickle feeds you that as you go
Yep.
along and you explore.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very nicely balanced for what I want out of it. So, and how can we mention this game and not mention the singing while you're mining?
Oh yeah. Absolutely fantastic. What a
That
great idea. Whoever had that idea, they truly had inspiration.
I see what you did there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, like standing there as a dwarf, hacking away at iron ore. Then you can hit E to start singing, and if there's others next to you, you'll start singing together, and it'll give you that inspiration. And it's different songs. I think it's different
Yeah.
songs every single time, and all depending on what tribe you come from too. I'm not 100%, but it's
Yeah.
beautiful, well done little piece of interactability
Yeah. And to
in
have
the
it
game.
be meaningful as well. So it's,
Yeah,
that again, beautiful, beautiful touch. Beautiful touch.
like I love the thought of emotes in like what's the pirate game?
Sea of Thieves?
Sea of Thieves. Yes, I love the idea of emotes there and the music you can play together,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't it doesn't do something for the game, does it? As far as I know,
I
like
don't think so. I think it's just
there's no
entertainment.
active bonus
Yeah,
or
I haven't played
anything.
a lot of it, but I think it's just purely entertainment.
That's another one I would love to play through, by the way. But I would have to have a private session, but I don't think that's able to be done. Anyway, no, it's Moria.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm looking forward to playing more of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
just so good.
Yep.
So yeah, no, diving down into the depths of Moria, finding all the secrets. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
very, very, very cool. And speaking of things that are cool,
Mm-hmm.
Frostpunk.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes.
Why has that suddenly arisen again? Grumbles, please tell
Well,
me.
there is the threat of the sequel on the horizon this year, first half of this year, some point, and it was a game that I got quite a long while back, and I really enjoyed. And then I think roleplay or something came up, probably roleplay. I blame roleplay; it's the easy option. So I was, I got probably 2/3 of the way through the initial story one, and it was great. I just remember it so fondly, even though it's quite harrowing. The decisions you have to make and
Mm-hmm.
death and disease everywhere and all the rest of it. But so I was itching to get back to it, and then we had EcoRP sort of wrapping up, and had a little gap, and I was like, I've got like only about 20 things that I probably need to play or would like to play, but it suddenly turned super cold and went all frosty and icy and -10 and everything outside here and colder elsewhere in the world. And it was like, oh, well, that's very fitting, isn't it? Let's play Frostpunk. So like the mixture of that and the trailers for the second one coming out and that just inspired me to pick it up again. And I know it's been a while, but a community member, Old Man Falcon, kindly gifted me the DLCs. I was like, have I got those? I was like, oh.
Nice. Yeah.
And there was one which we played, which is called The Last Autumn, and it's basically a prequel to the story where you get to play out one of hundreds of sites trying to create the very first generators in the world in time for the cold freeze coming in.
Right.
And it's really difficult, like for me anyway, really difficult. I used just the standard settings, which I think is medium on everything, and I was like, wow, how do people play this on hard mode? I'll never know. And yeah, we gave it the good old college try. I think we failed like 4 times or something, but we got really close to winning that thing. And it was kind of like the way it tells you the story, like maybe this wasn't even possible in the first place, but you really feel it of like, oh, I really tried this. And yeah, just superb. Really, really enjoying that as a sort of a change of pace or whatever in between things. Just such a stunning game. If people haven't played it by now, Might not be your kind of thing, you know, like a colony management, and it is harrowing. Like, you really, if you let the story unfold and hit you full force, it's quite hard psychologically. So you know, you don't have to play it that way. I guess you can just treat it as a game, but I do, and you need a bit of a break in between sessions on that basis. But it was just, it's just so good. The quality of the game is phenomenal. I hope the second one lives up to it, because it's a big challenge. But 11-bit studios have a pretty good track record, I think, for me anyway. And yeah, we'll see what they come up with.
So, what are you looking for in a follow up from Frostpunk? Because Frostpunk has, as far as I know, been pretty critically acclaimed all over the place. Like,
Yeah.
by most people, it is just beautiful title, beautiful setting, and just hyped up for good reasons. Like, it's a good game.
Yeah.
So what are you looking for in Frostpunk 2? To kind of evolve from Frostpunk 1, or do you want it to stay the same, only a continued story?
I think that's gonna be their big like challenge. It is how do they manage exactly that balancing act? So what I'm expecting based on the trailer, it doesn't give you a lot, but it gives you a little bit, is I think they've changed up the management a little bit to be more of you're creating zones rather than every single individual building. And part of that is they making the city huge compared to what you had before. So I think if it was still the micromanagement scale, it would be too much, you know, it would be overwhelming. So it looks like they're going for much bigger city, a zoning style to the management aspect, and it's a continuation where you go from merely surviving the cold has been achieved, and now it's like, well, people have expectations and aspirations, you know, they don't want to just subsist. So yeah, I think it's going to be a lot more politically charged, in the sense of like, in those dire circumstances, what do people want, what do they push for, what versus what do they need, and that kind of thing. I'm very intrigued how that's gonna unfold, because I really enjoy the whole you've got to survive at all costs kind of aspect, and I'm curious to see how that's gonna, you know, how they can keep that when in theory you've survived. So what's the threat? Does it change a lot from the existential threat to one of, you know, kind of people being people, if you know what I mean? And that could go one of two ways. That could be, you know, really good, but it could also potentially be very annoying in that it's like, why would, yes, people would do this, but why do people do it? You know what I mean? It could bring out some IRL frustrations potentially. So we'll get to see. I'm very, very excited for it, because they did such an amazing job with the music, the animation, it's just everything. It's graphically, the voiceovers. Apparently it seems like they're ratcheting the voiceovers to another level. Like, they've always been good, but now it's like much more detailed, much more like you really get the feel for these characters and the stories behind them, more than you did in the other one. So, because the other one is very well voice acted, but it's like, you know, I'm the workers' council and the workers demand this. End of message kind of thing. And this one, I think they're going more for a, you know, probably this. I imagine there are going to be some characters that we're going to hate. You know what I mean? The ones that really like, oh, what is wrong with you? You know, and I think it's going to push buttons in that regard. So I don't know, just my guess, but I've got a feeling we might have a bit more like Julius Caesar and the Roman Senate and all the backstabbing, you know, figuratively and literally, that kind of a feel to it. But time will tell. I'm very, very pumped for it, though. I've so enjoyed going back, and I think also having a long gap and then going back to it now was quite good as well, because it gave me an opportunity to compare it to a lot of other things I played in the meantime on many different levels, not just the same genre, but like games in general, and what have people done with sound and graphics and pacing of a game and this kind of thing. And when you look at Frostpunk, it's like it's a bit of a masterpiece for what it is, I think.
How's the replayability of Frostpunk, like the original game, like without DLCs or anything? How do you feel the replayability of it is?
So I dipped my toe in to do a little refresher, like what was the original one like. And what I will say is you can see the quality of the DLCs because they bring something new, both in the story and the scenario, but just the feel of it. But the original one, I think, still holds up. It's just that if you've played it maybe a dozen times, you know, how many more variants of the themes are there? You know, because there are probably, I don't know, it's just a gut feeling. I don't know the exact number, but there's probably what feels like a dozen different ways you can play through it as a general theme. You know, do you go through automatons, or do you let your people do the work and this kind of stuff, you know? So like the big stuff, the big changes. But I feel like the base game is very replayable as a colony one, but management. But at the end, you've got like a scenario, more or less. There is the endless mode, which gives you access to a few different buildings and possibly a few different options. I've not actually had a chance to play it. And obviously there's different difficulty settings, and so in the end, you could probably play 100 different ways because you could say, you know, food's going to be a lot more scarce this time, and how are we going to survive with that, and what are the repercussions and things. So I think that it's to me it feels very replayable, as long as you give yourself a psychological wellness break.
Yeah, like, because you said it is a pretty harrowing scenario, and some of the choices you need to make, they're hard choices. They're hard real life choices that at some point someone probably would have to make in such a scenario. And yeah, no, the premise is, of course, that the city must survive. And how do you go about that? Like who do you side with? Who do you yeah, who do you allow to influence your way forward? That's always interesting in such games.
Yep. But
And
it still stands
and I know
up.
that's something that Frostpunk has done really well.
Yep. Absolutely. I think it stands up. If you've not had a go at it and it goes on sale or whatever, I give it a massive 2 thumbs up. It's just really that good quality. But again, read up on it, watch some trailers or whatever without spoiling anything for yourself before you purchase, because you might find it too dark.
Would you give it 3 thumbs if you had 3?
Yeah, I would give it. Actually, I would have given it 3 thumbs, but I lost one of them to Frostbite.
See, there you go. There you go. That's that's the cold hard truth of Frostpunk. Like you'll lose a thumb.
Yep.
For legal reasons, that's a joke. And if anyone has lost a thumb to Frostpunk, I'm sorry.
To Frostpunk?
Yeah.
Oh,
Frostpunk. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Frostbite.
No.
If you've lost a thumb to Frostpunk,
yeah, no,
you
that's
probably
kind of
need
thing.
to look into a different kind of mouse.
or look into a different hobby. Honestly,
yeah.
If you lost one to Frostbite, it sucks to be you. That's all I can say. I mean, that's the whole truth of it. Like, it's like if you lose something to Frostbite, when I was, oh, I'm so sorry. Shouldn't have been out when it was that cold, should you? Silly Southerner.
Wow.
Yes, I am sitting here on my frozen throne, looking down on all those frozen peasants. No, I'm not the Lich King, sadly. I mean, what? But yeah, no. Frostpunk, the city must survive, and other places where cities must survive is where there are TNT barrels in the middle of town. Grumbles.
Oh dear. That sounds like it would go really well.
Yeah. It's as if I'm bringing it up for a reason. I wonder why I'm bringing that up. Thankfully, it was only Lego and it could be rebuilt very quickly.
Oh,
And
oh!
yeah.
I thought you were segueing into into the projects. I blanked for a moment. I thought you were talking about the other game, and I was like, "Well, I don't know, Tiger. I haven't played it, so why don't you tell us about that game you played?" Okay, you're talking about my aesthetic choices
Yeah.
within the Lego.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
went really well.
Did it though?
That's what I heard.
How much did you survive of that barrel?
Not as much of it as I would have liked.
So not at all.
It didn't go that well.
No, it didn't. It didn't really go that well. Like Mari, like okay, can we talk about how did Mari end up being the kind of the mayor of the town? Why was the town named after Mari? Like why? How did that start?
There's a one-word answer, and the word is
Uh-huh.
excitement. So, or overexcitement.
Uh-huh.
Because we were all
On
getting
whose part?
excited about continuing and doing that next bit, and then
Mm-hmm.
Mari just pressed buttons, and it was like, oh well, that's done now, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
So we are of course talking about Fortnite,
Mm-hmm.
but the Lego survival mode, which I got to jump on and try a bit, and I want to play more of it. But that was a lot of fun
Mm-hmm.
because you have this large open world with certain tasks and certain things that need to be done, and it's all Lego.
Mm-hmm.
And it builds beautifully, it plays beautifully, and it has a genuine survival mechanic in the buildup of food and the need for warm temperature or warm and cold protection, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a full-fledged survival game, and I
Yep.
did not expect that.
No, me neither.
It caught me completely by surprise with how well it plays.
Mm-hmm.
And like the only thing that I have to say, and I think that's partially my fault for coming in the way I did, uh, I I need more time to explore things, to understand why this piece needs to be crafted. Like where do I go to craft this piece? What do I need to craft these pieces?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I came into an already functioning group, it was kind of hard to ask a question about how do I do this. There was like, oh, it's that table. Okay, where is that table? Where did that table come from?
Mm-hmm.
How are we managing that table? What does that table need? Those are the questions that goes further in my head. And in a more quiet session and not of 6 7 people, that would be easier to do.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's more that's more on how I joined in on the game, not necessarily a fault of the game. I want to point that out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but seeing all of these mechanics and kind of getting the larger picture of things, like okay, yeah, they've genuinely made a large world here that is full of exploration, full of cool enemies, um that needs cooperation to fend off and beat, and it's just yeah, where did this come from?
I know,
Like
right? It just came out of nowhere, for a lot of people, myself included. And yeah, it's as you said, it was almost like I needed to pinch myself, like, is this a real thing or what's the catch kind of thing?
yeah,
And if you're a super cynic and the catch is, well, it's tied into all the Fortnite and the shopping, the
battle pass,
yeah, all that kind of stuff. But you don't need any of that. You literally don't need any of that at all, and it's totally free. And it's really well thought out, really nicely developed, beautifully sort of animated and put together, so you get that kind of full-on Lego, like cartoony fun.
and audio wise
Yep.
too. Like it sounds like bricks that
Yep.
are being clacked together or fall over when they
Yeah.
do.
and it's just a really, really good time, and especially in a group. It's very, very enjoyable. Yeah, can't really fault it. And I wasn't, not that I'm looking to, but it was like, I thought, yeah, this will probably be like a bit of a flash in the pan, or, no one's going to really get into it. And I found myself thinking, you know what, we could just play this for a few days. You could do some light role play in there if you wanted to, because it's got that nice mixture of sort of a bit of adventuring and a bit of exploring, and there's different places and biomes to visit, and it's really nicely fleshed out. It's a little on the smaller side, like self-contained kind of, but it's not in the sense that you don't feel like, oh, there's nothing to do. There's always a whole bunch of stuff to do. I would say that probably the one thing that stuck in my mind that I thought could be done maybe a little bit differently is there's a hard dependency on finding these caves and going through and getting specific resources that are only accessible in these caves, only because the caves themselves don't really pose that much of a challenge, except for one that we got to a bit later on, which was full of lava, and that was just like you were just dying left, right, and center because the floor was lava. But it felt like that part of it was a bit like, okay, this is too samey. This is like rinse, repeat. Okay, it's this 1.5 times harder, 1.5 times harder kind of thing. And that was the only thing that I thought could be maybe adapted or done differently. But considering this thing just sort of popped out of nowhere, more or less feeling, the quality was really on point. And yeah, and it was just fun. It was just super fun. You could get 8 people, I think it was, just jumping in randomly, or to a private session or whatever. I got a bit overwhelmed on day one because everyone just piled in. And I was like, okay, I'm just starting this. It's brand new. I don't know if it's any good. Hopefully we can get some people in. And then boop, people were just popping up left, right, and center around me. Nothing bad on that per se, but it was just like, okay, hang on. I haven't even walked around and had a look at them, at what I can do, or punched my first rock or anything. But it was the positive side of that is it was super easy to get people in, and there was no lag. Really, there was a micro stutter every once in a while, but there was no real, session crumbling under its knees and all that. Everyone could have a go at building some stuff and developing the village and all that kind of thing, usurping my leadership of my village. Yeah, so it kind of had a bit of everything in it, really. And I would, considering it's completely free and you don't need any of the shop stuff, you really don't. You can just jump in and have a laugh with it. Yeah, I would think the only thing that the other thing that was a bit odd was because they want you to buy stuff from the shop for the cosmetics, how your character looks and all the rest of it. You can earn some stuff for free just by playing the game, or by playing the Fortnite game for free. You can get other Lego skins than that. I felt like there should have been some more free stuff for just playing the Lego game, so you weren't forced to play the other one if you didn't want to.
It would have been very nice, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that there was effectively no character customization at all. Like, you couldn't say, I want to be a pink Lego, or I want to be a yellow Lego, or whatever. There was basically, you just got randomly generated a character, and then you were thrown into the world. Again, I think that's because they're so heavily leaning on the whole, well, if you want to look like Han Solo, it's easy.
That's also partially how they do it with Fortnite. Like,
right,
when you jump into a normal Fortnite game, you don't even get a choice between the gender of your character. Like, you're just thrown in, and that's it.
Yeah,
and
so that was just new to me.
I'm kind of okay with that, but at the same time, for a Lego game, you would expect some possibility of even with the most basic kind of blocks. With do you want hair or not? Do you want smile or not? Do you want yellow torso or green torso? All of these things.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Is like, because I'm used to survival games and not used to never played Fortnite, anything like that. So I didn't know, and I just thought that was a bit peculiar, but it didn't bother me per se. It was just, I thought that was missing. I was like, why don't you just let people, like you said, it might be just you can choose your eye color and your hair, and that's it. Go. But that just seemed weird. And the other thing that was part of that was the next day when I logged on the second day, my character had completely changed.
Yep.
I hadn't changed anything. It just completely changed to a different avatar. And I was like, okay, is it still me? I think it's still me. Or did the game go corrupt? Or no, it's still me. Okay. But yeah, no, it doesn't really matter that much. It was just something to get used to, or something to see as a different feature, I suppose, different way of doing something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, but as a free-to-play thing that you could enjoy, it's completely blindsided me, honestly. And I think I'll probably be putting up a session or two of that at some point, but with more of a okay, let's have let's have a bit more of a restricted party and learn a bit more of the of what goes on.
Yeah.
Kind of like we do it with Moria, because
Yeah.
Moria also has access or the space for 8 people,
Yeah.
but kind of through the flaw of how Fortnite works, you can jump in on friends in parties, and even if, like for me, I joined on Mari, who had joined on you, and even if you were the session leader, that in effect allowed me to join you.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's a bit weird the way the Epic launcher does that, but yeah, it's like I think it probably works better for a game like Fortnite, where you can easier jump in and out of games together with a quick join. But for something that has a survival element and the need for a balance, I would love to see a bit more restricting and a bit more control of the party, rather.
Yeah. But I think that's all coming from that Fortnite experience, I suppose, where it's just get people in and out as quickly as possible. Keep it going, keep it alive, keep it fresh. So I can kind of see where it's coming from, like from their base game and their mechanics. They might not have even given it that much thought, or thought, why does this have to be any different? It doesn't, from their point of view. But yeah, those are not like massive negatives at all. In fact, the fact that it was so easy to get people in was pretty cool. Because that's what you want. You want a no hassle gaming experience. You want to go to your friends, come play this game together. It'll be really fun. I've only got an hour. That's okay. Come and smack some rocks with me. As we'll go in a cave and then you can go. And then someone else can join in when you're done and that kind of thing. And it's got all of that in abundance, which was very enjoyable.
That and that is a massive bonus to the game, and yeah, we like that. We do. Unlike other games where you need to apply for an alpha status, I've recently played Project Cold War, which is the newest title under the wing of Wargaming. It's how do I describe this? I think the easiest way to describe this is to take 3 titles of games and mash them together, and people will still be confused. Because for me, it plays like a mix between Rainbow Six Siege, Battlefield, and Armored Warfare. Now, one thing I want to point out, a lot of people are going to hear, oh, it's a tank game from Wargaming. It's World of Tanks 2.0. No, it's not. Very, very important. There's a very big difference. First and foremost, right out of the gate, they are saying, yeah, this is Project Cold War, but you're going to have modern tanks. Like, it's not just going to be Cold War era tanks, it's going to be more modern tanks there. It's also going to have a fantasy feeling to it. Like, it's not based in reality. It's not supposed to be realistic. So for anyone looking for a realistic shooter, just drop that right now. Don't think historical accuracy of any of the vehicles. Just enjoy the game for what it is.
Yeah.
Because this is a title that has the hero shooter mechanics of Rainbow Six Siege, Overwatch, and similar types of games, Valorant, and so on, where the tank you're in is the hero. Well, I guess technically the driver of the tank is the hero, but because you have abilities and you have different characteristics of the tanks.
Mm-hmm.
So first and foremost, there are three base types of tanks. You have the attacker kind of tank, which is swift, hits hard, but is squishy. You have the defender kind of tank, which is the tank. And then you have more of a specialist or supporter role on the last ones.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, you also have factions. But let's not dive too deep into that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have these three roles, right? And as you level up with your tank, as you do your thing, you get XP and so on. You get to choose a more active way that you want to play your tank.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you are in the defender subclass, that doesn't mean that you can't choose stuff that gives you more armor penetration or similar.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not locked into just being more tanky in different ways.
Right.
You actually have DPS choices. Like you could go that route if you want to.
Okay.
And I kind of like that because it gives the player an active choice,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just predetermined that this is the cookie cutter build, this is the must-haves of this tank or
Mm-hmm.
or so on. Like you have some things where you get to choose and to fit your playstyle.
Right.
And I mentioned Battlefield in
Mm-hmm.
this, and that's because of the game modes. But I also need to bring in CS, Counter Strike, out into that, because the game modes are, you have kind of like a King of the Hill place where you have one cap
Mm-hmm.
that they fight over. Then you have the normal conquest one where there are 5 or 6 different flags around the map, which you fly around and you try to capture and kill. And in those two game modes, you have endless respawns.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You get killed, you zoom on in again. You get killed, you zoom on in again.
Mm-hmm.
And but in the last one where you have 2 flags,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have one attacking team and one defending team, it's about trying to plant a bomb or defend from the others trying to plant the bomb. And
Right.
that, if you get killed there, you're out for that round.
Oh, okay.
And then it's first to 3.
Okay.
And that's actually kind of cool. So, because it makes you, like, you need to be aware of, okay, I can't just rush in here. I need to play smart. I need to be
Mm-hmm.
aware of how I apply my tank and how I use my abilities in a different way.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's a cool mix. It's a cool game. I can recommend trying it out to anyone who enjoys World of Tanks, World of Warships, Armored Warfare, War Thunder, like all of these action game titles.
Mm-hmm.
I can fully recommend people jumping in on it and trying, uh, but mind you that it's not a realism shooter. It's not historical accuracy at all. This is a fun, quick, like the games themselves go so quickly. Like you don't have something that drags out for 20, 30, 40 minutes.
Right.
It's literally just, okay, we're going to hop in here, and then 10 minutes later you're into a new game.
Okay. Yep.
That's pretty much it. So it's high pace, high action, and yeah, I will recommend people checking it out. So
That's
Project
cool.
Cold War, yeah, the newest from and it's being I'm not sure if it's being developed by Wargaming, but it is being published by Wargaming.
Okay.
So you'll find it through the Wargaming launcher and apply there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's also an in-house engine. So it's not based on any other engines that are already in use by Wargaming or anything like that.
Okay.
It is purposefully built for this game.
Hmm.
So yeah, keep these things in mind. And I want to point out they are in closed alpha right now, and for an alpha
Yeah.
type game at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
I'm honestly surprised by it.
That's cool.
It runs really well.
Excellent.
So yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Go
I'm
check it
very
out.
tempted to have a look. If I'd had a bit more time, I would have done, but not been possible for me yet. But that's cool. Sounds like it's got some promise.
Yeah, and judging from the games on the horizon, we are not going to have time to check it out anytime soon.
No.
Because yeah, Enshrouded is here.
Yep.
Or going to be here very soon, at least.
Yeah, it's dropping on Wednesday evening, I think 1700 or something, Central European, and I'm probably going to get to play it on Thursday. I'm in contact with the publishers. Hope so. They actually offered me access to it beforehand with an NDA and everything, and I was like, I just won't have time. So how about we just park it until after the NDA time is over. And yeah, it's I'm super excited for it. I'm a little bit unsure. I played the demo and I thought it had some really cool, like it's a voxel, but you can, like, the world is destructible and buildable in. You could live in a hobbit village if you wanted to, or dungeons underneath. You could build Moria. You could, you can do anything, as well as all the surface building and that. You could, to your heart's content. And it's quite granular, with relatively small blocks and things that can be used in big pieces and blueprint pieces. There's a learning curve and a fiddliness to the building. I'm interested to see what it's like at release compared to how it was when I first tried it. But yeah, and then there's the whole, and that's without even getting into the whole, well, there's a big world out there to adventure into as well. So I'm really curious to see how they've done with, in terms of the world development, and how far that's come and whatnot, and how ready that is. It should be very exciting. Yeah, we'll see on Thursday. Hopefully, Arcard's he wants to try and set up a server. I'm not even sure how private servers and all that work yet, so I can't really say anything other than he said he wants to. Hopefully that means it's possible. And yeah, we should be able to have a muck about the three, him, myself, and Cringer. And then the idea is that we'd have that server then available for people to play even offline, and or not offline, but like off stream and stuff, and have community members join in, because I think it's up to 16 in that one. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to get a few folks, sort of carefully, not everyone bursting into the room, but as we just talked about with the last game, or the penultimate game. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do something like that, where we could get some people to come in and just have a muck around and do some adventuring. I'm really curious to get more into the Shroud and the lore. It looked quite kind of cool. I love the idea that you're the last of the sort of Flameborn. And there's this evil Shroud that's kind of, well, I say evil, there's a Shroud, we don't know enough about it yet, that's kind of snuffing everything out. And yeah, as I'm really intrigued to delve into the story and see where it goes. So yeah, got some decent expectations for that one, and as usual, try not to get too overexcited before it happens. I'm very curious, because we didn't get to see that much from the demo, because you could play like a 10-hour session and then it would reset. So I'm very curious to see how deeply developed is the story.
I saw a video of someone who played the demo, and they decided, okay, you know what, for the last hour, we're just gonna dig straight down.
I love it.
And I'm not quite sure if they actually hit bedrock or not, but yeah, they were just three guys doing the Minecraft thing of digging straight down, which you're not supposed to do, and they were having a blast. They were
Nice.
loving it.
Yeah.
So because it's part of the freedom of the game, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm genuinely curious to see how big this world is going to end up being because
Hmm.
the building system and the combat system, like everything, it's a very it looks like a very all-encompassing kind of game. So
Yeah.
I just hope that they haven't bit off too much with
Yeah.
what they're trying
That's
to
what I'm
do.
curious about too. Is like how well polished, how well rounded is it? Is it as an experience? Fully agreed. So yeah, I didn't get to see that much of it yet. I'm very curious. I have done a little bit of research, not too much to spoil anything, but just a little bit to understand, especially the building system, because I love the building system and the idea of it, but it's kind of fiddly. So
Mm.
I'm very curious to see, like, is it that fiddly, or am I useless, or is it a bit of both? And I think it's a bit of both. My lack of familiarity with it is more what I mean, and but I think that also it's quite finicky the way that certain things work. So I think that I'm now better armed to go into that, understanding how some of the things work. And in particular, there's one tip I would give from a video I watched, is sometimes you've got to, well, it's two things actually. One is you've got to put down stuff and then chisel away at it afterwards, bit vintage story style,
Right.
very loosely, not to that granularity, but so you've got to be not afraid to put down, okay, I want this wall this long, and the pieces I've got kind of are either too short or too long, so put down the long one and then just chisel away. Like, it sounds obvious, but like I was spent too much time trying to find where's the piece I need to fit this,
Right. Yeah.
rather than saying, oh, actually, just slap this huge log down and then just chop the end of it off, kind of thing. So there's that. And the other thing I would say is, and I learned this from a really good video as well, is the roof making is really difficult. But with the roofs, the walls, everything, if you make a house and it's not exactly the right dimensions to fit the pieces that the model offers you, and you don't want to put every single block down piece by piece, what you do is you pick the bigger wall and you line it up, and the game intelligently only utilizes the resources from your pocket that it would need to fill that gap.
Oh.
Yeah, and I didn't know that either, because that really held me back when I was playing the demo, because I was like, well, I don't want to waste all this stone. I don't want to, it takes a while to gather the resources and that. But it doesn't do that. It's smart enough to say, oh, you only need this 3 wide slot here, so pick the 5 wide, cover the gap, make sure it's lined up at the height and everything you want, and then bang, it just magically takes just enough to fill that 3 gap in, as an example.
That is actually very
yeah.
nice. I wasn't aware of that. That's a really intelligent system. Cool.
Absolutely.
That's really cool to see and use.
100%. And as part of that, and one of the things that I'm super psyched for, I'm sure a lot of people are that like building, is, and even terraforming, is the game, the voxels wrap and adapt really well to the pieces and the adjustments you make. So if you, for example, make a set of wooden stairs, then chisel away the end of the stairs, just like one block, and then put stone down in one block, along that edge, it will make a molded stair edge trim to your wooden staircase. If that makes sense. Maybe it's hard to visualize it as I'm describing it. But basically, everything just, or like if you're making a slot for a window, it doesn't have to be super precise, just approximately, because the game will magically fill in the little gaps and make things mold and look more natural. Rather than it being all exact. So the pieces have exact dimensions, but when they interact with another piece next to them, they form together.
Interesting. It's gonna be very cool to see.
Yeah.
Because a good building system can really save a lot of games.
Yeah.
But a bad building system can really be an excruciating pain in the butt
Yeah.
that just absolutely ruins the feeling of whatever it is you want to try to do in this game. Less. Sorry, this is a cough.
It's funny because I was wondering, is he segueing to Sons of the Forest? Because that system was a tweak of the Forest original game, but in a really annoying way.
Yeah, no, I haven't tried the building system in
Okay.
Sons of the Forest,
Yeah.
but the forest system I kind of liked because it was big. You could kind of say, okay, I want a wall this long,
Mm-hmm.
and then you add materials, and you'll have a wall that long.
Mm-hmm.
So then my question is, what did they tweak in Sons of the Forest, which
Mm-hmm.
has a full release coming up soon too, by the way?
Yes.
What is the tweak they've done that? Like, did you play the Forest?
Yes, I played a bit of the Forest. I didn't get all the way through it because I got scared. But it was
We need to try to save Timmy. I honestly, I think we should
Yeah.
sit down and try to save Timmy at some point.
Yeah, I think that would be another one that I really want to go back and try it out. Just again, haven't had the opportunity or necessarily the inclination to terrify myself. But
It's better with friends. I'll say
yeah.
that it is better with friends.
100%, and that's kind of why I didn't do it the first time, because I was kind of on my own, and Damien and I gave it a quick go, but it was kind of like, well, we were in the waiting room for the second one, so I didn't really give it a proper go, I don't think. Oh no, maybe we looked at the second one only. I think it was maybe the second one. Anyway, so what they did is they added a whole bunch of new like pieces, like you can slice your own window frame into a flat wood wall and your own doorway and stuff like that. So there's some really cool things that gave a lot more customization, so you could build a lot more however you wanted to. And I thought that was really, really cool. What they took away, and I don't know if they've changed it. There's been a lot of patches soon, and this is the big 1.0 release or something, I think, the full release. So I'm really hoping for two things. One, that all the tweaks and the feedback have brought more of the forest style back into the game as well as the new stuff. And two, that the ending, which was really intense and interesting, like maybe getting there could have been better, could have been smoother. They definitely needed some TLC when I played it the first time at that release or the early access. But the actual premise of this, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it for people if they haven't seen it. But if you are hoping that they took what was there at the ending of the early access release and they've added some more elements, either on the way to getting there, so that you see more of the lore and more of the story, or that it kind of carries on a little bit into that story ending, because it kind of, I don't want to say blew my mind, but it kind of was like, oh wow, they've gone there. I wasn't expecting it. It was like, oh, and then the way they did it, and the animation and the music and the kind of the storytelling at the end point was like, okay, that's actually really cool. I didn't expect that. That's really cool. So I'm really trying to skirt around not saying anything, so as not to spoil it for anybody. It's, if you haven't seen it yet, it's definitely worth getting to that point or watching somebody play to that point. And if you have played so far, and I would really keep an eye out for the release and see. I don't know, so I'm being careful not to like commit things that aren't coming or whatever. I'm just very excited that if they do take that ending, like the ending for me took it from like, yeah, this was kind of fun because, hanging out with some friends and doing some silly things together is always a good laugh. And it went from that to like, oh, okay, then let's see where this goes. I got genuinely, it was almost like, even if that comes in a Sons of the Forest 2, I'd be like, okay, that would be cool, but they have to tidy up how you get there in the first place.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's like some of it was a bit painful, and the building system, just to go back to that point briefly so I don't forget that entirely, is they kind of took away what you had in the forest, where you could say, I think you mentioned it before, like, I want to build this wall this long, and the game will go, oh, all right, fine, that's 100 stones, off you go, spend 4 hours doing that, and you could do that. And in this one, they made it more like you could sort of free form adding, okay, I want to add another piece to the cabin here, and it'll give you another block to add. And but they took away the whole they took the thing away where you would build the wall and it would be a frame, and then you would go and get the resources and fill it in over time. They made it more that you had to, the pieces you had on you, you could add and adapt a little bit more flexibly to the wall, but you had to have that stuff at hand and do it, if you see what I mean. They kind of, I think they, if I remember it correctly, we only played once for 2 days. It was a bit of a whirlwind tour. But from what I remember, it was a bit like there was no blueprint or frame that you filled in anymore with missing resources. It was like, go and get the stuff and add it on.
I like that system, because that's the same kind of system that we saw with the prefabs in Lego Fortnite.
Yeah.
Where you say, I want to build this, and the game says, okay, go get these things for me. And then we can build this together.
Yeah. So they kind of took away that one bit of the forest building system that I thought was fantastic, because it was like, okay, I know what I'm up against now. I've got an hour to go and collect some more stones and some more logs and that. That's cool. But at least I'm in for it. You know, this is what I wanted to build.
Yeah, because that's the sort of system that really speaks to the way, at least very much, you and I do things.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're like, okay, how do I want to attack this? What do I want to do? And then you kind of start with an idea, and it's like, no, let's try this instead. And then you're like, okay, now we're cooking with gas, you know. And then you start seeing an idea form in your mind, and you can use the blueprint there to kind of create and see that idea take shape as you're going.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, that's something that I really enjoyed in the forest, because it allowed me to do that no matter what I was building, pretty much, except for I think a couple of things that were like you couldn't expand it, like it was a set amount. But no, like walls, bridges, anything like that, you could just go bang, this big, go, and then the game tells you what you need to do. That's always cool. So if they've removed that, okay, let's hope they bring that back for the full release.
Yeah, I really hope so.
That's a big boon to the building system, honestly.
Yeah, and I thought that what they added was quite cool, but taking that one piece away was like, oof, that makes that a bit painful. So the blueprints instead were like, this is a prefab hut, this is, you know, whatever. And then one of the coolest things is that they added in, I'm going to keep calling him Kevin, but Kelvin or whatever, the AI guy.
Yes.
And he was awesome. He was it was a very sad story, but kind of hilarious at the same time. And it worked pretty well, especially given like from the early access, they did make a few tweaks in the first week, but it worked really well. In fact, even overnight on the first day to the second day, it got a lot better. But they've added a bunch more things. But I like this idea with the blueprint where you can say, go and build that thing, go and gather the resources and build that hut for me. That's pretty cool. Yeah. If you wanted to go off adventuring, you know, instead of being tied at your base all the time. However, if, you know, I still don't get why take the other thing away. You could have had both. And maybe they took it away because the AI couldn't handle the whole filling in. I'm, you know, complete guessing at this point. But if that's the case, then just have some things that Kevin can help with and some things that Kevin can't help with. You know, but like, give the builders the choice, yeah.
Let Kevin do the prefab that is fully set and can't be expanded, and then you have to do whatever's dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, actually think about it, that would be super cool to say, okay, we're going to set up camp here. There's like fishing, there's, you know, defendable area, that kind of thing. Set a prefab down, Kevin build that so we've got somewhere to sleep when it gets dark, and put a campfire up and that kind of thing. And while he's doing that, you can get to building whatever monstrosity, you know, that you want to build. You know, I think there's or the defensive perimeter, like doing the wall, or, you know, that kind of thing. They did a cool thing with the palisades and that, and then it was optional if you wanted to have the spike at the top. You could like slam into it with your axe and give it a spike at the top or not. And they've changed it so that Kevin can do the spikes on the palisade now as well, so you don't have to spend 4 hours, 3 of you running around just to put half a palisade up that's got a lot of holes in it. You can get Kevin to go and put all the spikes and things on it as well. So again, I think there's so much promise to that, and the ending looks like it could be like that good. I really hope they've expanded on it. I'm not going to count on it because that would be a lot to do, but we'll see. So I'm looking forward. That's end of February, but I'm looking forward to that.
Right. And speaking of the end of other things, a lot of people have lost their jobs.
Yes. Sad news.
Twitch, I think YouTube, like there are many,
TikTok. Yeah.
many places where a lot of people have lost their jobs recently. In this sort of business. Very quickly, I want to give an dishonorable mention to Hasbro / Wizards of the Coast for their layoffs of 1,100 people that worked with art and production. Many of them were involved with the Baldur's Gate 3 production. And not long after that, they put out a tweet with AI art trying to claim that it was human art and just made a whole
Oh.
bollocks of it themselves. And yeah, but don't worry, the 3 CEOs walked away with multi-million-dollar bonuses for their hard work this year, so that's good. But yeah, no, I think we're seeing a bit of a sign of the times, because and this thing comes in waves. It always comes in waves. Like, you see it with Twitch, you see it with YouTube, you see it with any sort of production company where you have good times and they hire more people. They hire, they engage, they grow, they attempt to reach new heights.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a change in the economy worldwide, or something happens to the company itself where suddenly that growth halts, and they can't go on like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, okay, what do we do now? All these wonderful people. I'm pretty sure that there's not a single company out there that takes enjoyment in doing these layoffs, redundancies, or whatnot. I don't think there's a single company that enjoys doing that. But yeah, it's there's a lot of it. What do you have to add to this, Grumbles?
Yeah, I think it's there's so many things there. This always happens when especially if companies go public in particular or get funded in a different way. Then pressures, all the dynamics change, and I've seen this so many times over about 25 years of working in sort of IT and finance sector. You see this all the time, and it's funny that from within the system, you're kind of just almost you're indoctrinated and trained to just see this is just part of doing business.
The greater good.
Yeah, but it's like, this is just it's
The
more that it's
good.
normal. It's just it's this just happens. This is normal. Oh well, we tried our best, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. There's always, at the end of the day, there's a bunch of fat cats getting huge payoffs, or even just golden parachutes when they have to go and that kind of thing. And it's tough at the top. I think it's the AI part is very specific to what's going on in the world at this time. And it's funny that you and I both decided we're not going to use Tangier because that just feels too creepy, and people going to be saying things that they wouldn't normally say, and it just felt wrong to us on multiple different levels. And fun enough, I was really proud. Burke Black came out with a tweet, I think yesterday, saying, I really like this. It was super fun. But I have seen now that people are having their voices just imitated by the AI. And I'm not going to use it anymore. He's totally removed it from his stream and all the support for it. Funnily enough, do you know what drew the straw for him?
No.
It was... it's going to kill me now. I've got what's her name? Taylor, the narrator from Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, right.
She popped up on Tangier, but it's not her. It's an AI of her. And Bert was like, wait, is this you? Amelia. That's it. because she even popped into the stream once when we were playing. And Bert was like, "Wait, no, we know her. She's cool and friend of the stream and all the rest of it, and does her own streaming and works really hard and gets, a big gig like that. It's a lot of pressure and did an amazing job in that. You can't just go and pretend to be her AI system." And Bert was suddenly had his eyes open to it and was like, oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's all fun and giggles when you're hearing the, Star Wars Rebels narrator guy reading out something to do with your stream and all that and your community. It sounds fun. But then you realize, that it can go to any lengths and people can say anything, and regardless of whether they're getting any kind of recognition for it and whatever. And there's always going to be the counter argument of like, well, it's getting publicity for those people, but it isn't really. I think that's a fallacy.
Let's be very fair and very straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Does publicity and exposure pay the bills? No, it doesn't. It doesn't even attempt to cover it.
Mm-hmm.
Because and especially in that setting where somebody hears the AI voice of you and they're like, oh, I can use that AI voice.
Yeah.
And that removes even more of that potential of revenue. So yeah, no, I'm really, really proud of Burke for that.
Yeah.
That's a big step. It is
definitely.
And I think that's the kind of wake up that more people need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But we are going to see more of it. There is no stopping it. I will point that out, and which is why I'm really happy. Like, we see all these redundancies being made because of the possibilities of AI work. But I recently saw Carnage talk about this. He was midstream when SAG-AFTRA dropped the news that they had made deals for the use of or started to draw down like contracts for how to pay people even when their AI likeness is being used.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where the future needs to go. Like, he was like, hold on, that sounds bad. And he sat down midstream, read the article, saw the video, and he was like, no, this is good. And the reason why he could say that is it puts down the groundwork for letting people be paid for their likeness being used, kind of like royalty and such. And that's going to be the important part. Because for the likes of Matt Mercer and other voice artists out there that do well with this, and it's their job, at some point they stood there and they could easily be completely removed. And if we do not have guidelines for this, for how it should be used and should be taken up, then suddenly the Wild West opens up. Everyone uses them and nobody gets paid.
Yep.
However, now we're laying the groundwork for people to get paid, to get their due rights for this. And I'm happy, but also kind of scared. But as long as we keep that kind of trend going, that where the idea is, okay, we're gonna make sure that the people get paid, then one of the really cool benefits of this is that let's say some indie studio that couldn't hire a voice actor directly, but they're able to pay for the rights to use the AI voice for certain roles, then they suddenly could start to kind of like, okay, yeah, no, I can do this. And then that indie game becomes popular and they're able to pour more money and maybe even into actual proper voice work.
Yeah.
So we're kind of on a very important precipice here when it comes to voice work, artwork, programming, and any sort of job that could potentially be done by AI. We need to lay down the law, so to speak, and I think I think in the art sector, that's where a lot of that really groundbreaking work is going to be done first and foremost.
Yeah. Well, I hope that it works out positively for the artists, because it's so tricky and it's got potential to go more wrong than right. But hopefully.
It does. It does. And it's actually gone to the point where there are tools out there to poison AI. And this is gonna sound silly. Like, how can you poison AI? Well, the way that that's done for art is that there's introductions of imperceivable pixels, like imperceivable by the human eye, but for any art that reads this, that tries to understand it, it sees extra pixels going in every direction and obscuring the picture itself,
Hmm.
making it so that something that starts out like a cute puppy could end up looking like a cow. And when you ask for, oh, draw me a puppy, and you end up with a cow, you're gonna be like, this is shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like,
The humans are starting to fight back, Skynet.
yeah, exactly. And I'm kind of cheering it on, but yeah, it feels sad that we have to go to that length. So hopefully, with good groundwork and good rules, that we won't have to go there, and that people that are artists get their credit, and yeah, that would be amazing. Let's say, like, do we know any artists? Mims. Let's say Mims got all of their art fed into an AI, and people started churning out emotes on their own.
Yeah.
And for every emote, they got 25 cents or something, or more. I don't know. Like, that was just a number off the top of my head, so don't come for me on that. But like, they got a percentage for every single time it was used. I think that could be really cool, and that
Yeah. I think
gives credit to it. But yeah,
yeah,
it has to be done well.
exactly. And I think that my concern with it is just the usual thing, is that unless there's a body there supporting each other, it's going to be hard for like individual artists to be able to express themselves and ensure the legal safeguards are in place, to have their work, fairly used and accessible.
I
So
mean,
complicated.
but part of what you could do is, of course, say that the new tools to create art would include the AI, but you would have to pay for the license for that. And then, the artist using this AI would help its own AI learn its own style to quicker be able to produce more stuff, so that they can take on more customers. They can do more work for for instance, for us Twitch streamers who need emotes for new events and new seasons and so on. And I think that could be one way of doing it. I'm not sure. Like, I'm just spitballing at this moment.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I hope we solve it in a good way. That's all I can say, really.
Yeah. Like, otherwise we're going to spend a lot of our lives going forwards trying to work out what's real and what isn't real. At least that would take some degree of that away, because you'd say, well, it kind of doesn't matter because it's all been inspired by this other person. I think the hard part then would be where's the overlaps and the lines between, like, right now you'd say you can't plagiarize and steal another person's work, or you shouldn't be able to, and that kind of thing. But there'll be obviously some overlap in certain styles, but typically an artist will have a flair, a mood that they're in, an energy level, a relationship with the people they're doing the work for, and all those kind of factors. And computer doesn't have any of those human elements to it, obviously. So that's going to be a super tricky part, I think. But yeah, we just have to see where it goes.
We do indeed, and I don't know. Maybe at some point we'll end up with computers with split personalities because of this, because of how hard they work for it. But yeah,
Can just see at some point some computer, an AI that's supposed to do something involving safety or whatever, that has some physical aspect or even a psychological aspect to it, ends up an AI art program terrorizes somebody, and the AI company tries to go through all the legal loopholes to make it that it was the artist's fault because it was inspired by the artist originally, and the AI would have never drawn
there
such
you go.
a horrifying thing, you know? A spider with 16 legs, and it only
Yeah,
did that because it had seen that inspired by the, you know what I mean? I don't want to be
yeah.
too cynical, but I could just see it, imagine
I,
that and the legal case, and then it's the big AI company, Google versus Mims, right? I'm sorry, Mims, I'm
yeah.
picking on you in this, but you know what I mean? And it's like that's that would be really scary. So we'll see. Hopefully we can navigate this and find a good way through it, but yeah, I feel for the artists right now because I think it's hard enough to be, doing that stuff as it is, and then to be confronted by this on top of it.
Yeah, no, it's an intense market, and I'm glad I'm not competing for a space there. But yeah, speaking of competing for spaces,
Yes.
how's multi-streaming working out for you?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I don't want to prattle on too long about it, but it's kind of related a little bit to the layoffs everywhere topic, where I wanted to say one thing, which is as soon as Twitch do some layoffs, it's funny how everybody just wants to pile on Twitch and be like, you're the worst ever, and you're doing this wrong, and you're really stupid. And then it's like you zoom out a little bit. Nobody makes a big fuss when Google does layoffs. Nobody's making a big fuss with their YouTube branch. Nobody's makes a fuss when like TikTok just laid off a whole load of people as well in their creative space. And it's like, why? It's Twitch is like, oh, let's get them. And it just, I just thought I'd remark on that. I find it highly interesting that, we decide that we're going to hold Twitch to this ultra high standard. And I think a lot of it is because people make money and a name for themselves off of being the naysayers and being the ones that bring the bad news and all the rest of it. And the multi-streaming things, a while back it was like, and I still get it, and I think it's totally valid, but it's, oh, better branch out, Twitch is going to go under maybe, and then you're going to be screwed, and you better do all this other stuff and all the rest of it. And so, and then I did the partner push on YouTube, and we got there, and that was kind of its own annoyance and having to remind people all the time, oh, please help us out. And then we get there, and then we start going down that track, right? All my videos get demonetized because of my pretzel music, even the YouTube safe tracks. So I'm limiting how much music I'm using to do YouTube safe, and every single one of them gets not a copyright strike, but a demonetized claim. So it's basically like, sometimes it's like I do a 5-hour stream and it's like, you've got 44 claims against your video, so you can't monetize it. And they allow the use of their music, but they will get the revenue and all that. Right. So hey, I guess I'm making some good money for other people at least. It's quite funny like that. And the other thing is, it's really weird, and I've seen this even on some, unless you're like really a big content, like well-known content creator, even pretty well-known ones, right? The numbers, because I was really worried. I was like, hang on, like 4 people watch on YouTube, and 2 of those are my moderators, you know? And it's like every day my stream report for YouTube is like, hey, 7 people tuned in today. And because everybody's on Twitch, and that's the mainstay. That's where I want to be live, and that, to the point where I'm almost going to stop doing it again, because I just wanted to get to the point where we could sort of monetize and have the channel known and existing. But I'm not I can't offer the same level of chat experience. The moderators are torn because they're like, they want to keep an eye on things, but like there's not a lot going on over there. And then someone turns up trying to sell AI art or something like that, and there's no one there to moderate, so I feel bad and they feel bad, and it's just another thing to keep and then I feel bad when I miss someone talking to me who's making the effort to actually engage over on the YouTube. It's usually community members who are like trying to help us out, but even so, I'm like, oh, so Jacker said this 2 hours ago, hi Jacker on the YouTube, thanks, and he's like, no, I'm here in the meantime because you were ignoring me. So it's a weird experience. It's like I'm kind of glad I've got it in that it's there, and I've got a plan B if something does go wrong with Twitch technically or otherwise. But I'm actually reaching the point now where I'm like thinking I'm not going to really stream to YouTube or into something else in parallel, because what's the point? I'm dividing my attention. I'm dividing my moderator's attention. I mostly just miss something anyway if it comes through by accident, or it's someone advertising themselves. And so, like, what's the point of, it's the plan B? And I've looked at like other streamers. Now, some people have done really well with TikTok, although I have my own personal thoughts and conspiracy theories around TikTok and whether it's real and that. But that's a whole different conversation. But generally speaking, at least YouTube and Twitch, unless you've already got a name or you're able to pump out a lot of distinct content on YouTube that's attracting new, and you're really putting your energy into that, which I don't want to do because I don't want to detract from my Twitch experience for people. That's the OG, and it's still where most of the people are and where I'm having the most fun. It's the premier live streaming service from my point of view. So it's really weird, and I just wanted to share some thoughts on it so far. It's pretty early in the journey, but like I've looked around, and I don't want to name names because it's it might come across as weird or whatever, but like even some well-established, much larger channels have a similar kind of pattern. Over here 1,000 people, over there 50 people.
Yeah.
And it's like, because this is your mainstay and this is what people know from you. So the main thing I'm getting out of streaming to YouTube at the moment is it's just all my content is on YouTube every day.
Yeah, but the reason why, and I wanna just point that out. The reason why it is so hard for those of us who want to follow the rules and such and not overstep any bounds is because, yeah, on one side Twitch is allowing us to do it now, but they're also restricting us so heavily, like using tools that would allow us to see chat simultaneously on both sides and know where it comes from, and even transfer that chat. Because I used to use Restream before I got affiliate on Twitch. I used to use Restream, and I streamed to both YouTube and Twitch at the same time because I was monetized on YouTube before changes, and I probably would have still been if I'd kept on going, because that tool allowed me to have that interactivity and be able to answer both chats. Like, I sat there with one window, I saw everything, and then I could say, oh yeah, well, this is an answer to YouTube with this name. Yes, this is this in this game, or so on. And in my tool it would say Twitch or YouTube, but it would also send that to the other chat and then say, from Twitch, this username, comment.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. But Twitch is actively restricting the use of those tools. They are saying that you're not allowed to use those tools to unify chats. And I'm like, that's stupid. Because on one end, they're sitting there saying, oh yeah, you should really branch out. You should be on multiple platforms. You should show off elsewhere, and we're allowing it. But you can't do it.
Yeah.
Like,
you can do it, but you shouldn't be. You can't do it very efficiently, and you shouldn't really be doing too much of it. Oh, and you can't tell people to go over and watch you on YouTube. So it's like, I get that part, but it's like it's the nuance isn't there as always, right? It's just one way, and that's it. And maybe they'll learn and open it up, because I think it was great, and we all welcome the fact that they have given us the chance. That's for sure. It just feels, I just wanted to share my experience of it so far. It's very interesting. I feel like there's more cons than pros. All that I've really been able to achieve from it is, which is a big positive, and I'm very happy and very thankful, is to be able to get enough people and the numbers. So it did help me getting my watching hours up and all that kind of thing. So it helped me meet the hurdles to get the next level YouTube or to actually start that adventure off. So that was great. But now I'm like kind of in limbo. I'm not really, 4 or 5 viewers with half of those being my moderators every stream. There's almost no point, and a high probability that I'm going to miss what someone wrote in the other chat window. There's not really a lot of incentive for me to, I feel like I'm doing people almost a disservice. Like, don't watch that, watch this.
Yeah,
it's a funny one. It's an odd one.
and in regards to using music, like you said, yeah, you might be allowed to use the music, but that doesn't mean that you're allowed to monetize the content. So
Yeah.
what I know a lot of people have started doing is the whole bring your own music kind of thing, and I've I've started doing it where
Mm-hmm.
I listen less and less to music while I stream.
Mm-hmm.
Like some days I need it, and then I'll just say screw it. I'll listen to music today because I need the audio stim, and I need something to keep my brain engaged because brain go burr.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the days I'm like, okay, on the intro we have some sort of music, and then it's bring your own music.
Yeah.
And then people can listen to whatever they want. Because not everybody likes EDM, not everybody likes metal or whatever. Then people can listen to what they want, and I get to stream how I want to, and I get to keep the revenue for said ads or whatever it must be. So
Yeah.
that's potentially something you could consider if you're going to go on with the
So
YouTube
so
journey.
here's the really funny thing with the YouTube is it's really sad. Because of the way YouTube does it, where so the way Twitch does it, they mute a part of your VOD.
Yeah.
And apart from that, as far as I know, I could be wrong, there's no other impact, right? Assuming it's not a strike, just a one that's been flagged in their algorithm. And usually I can appeal all of them, and every single one I've appealed so far, hundreds of times, they've all been unmuted and returned in my favor. And it doesn't affect me in terms of my ad revenue and all that kind of stuff, right? On YouTube, it just fully demonetizes the whole video. So one 2-minute song in the middle, or no, to be honest, 1 20-second clip that the algorithm picks up demonetizes my whole video. So do you want to know what the absolute saddest thing is? I've tried it. I've played only in-game music, right? And I've had no flags. And you know what I'll get? I'll get flagged because of my Asasio tune. Right? So I'm like, so not only that, but I have to redo or turn off all of my sound bites and things that community love and I love them doing. So because of the way YouTube does it, where it flags the whole video for one little thing, I literally can't do anything except play game music, and I'd have to turn all my sound alerts off. Sad, isn't it? So that's why for me the YouTube one's very interesting, like eye-opening experience. There are some positives to it, but there's also like it comes with some stress and some extra things to think about.
Yeah.
When I see your, I did my best. I was like, we're just gonna play literally like we did in the Frostpunk, only the Frostpunk soundtrack of the game, and it's beautiful music and everything, and it goes through fine, and you do like 8 hours and everything, and you're really happy with all the content. And then 10 minutes later, you get a ding, you look at the email, and it says, your body's video has been demonetized because of, Gerd Wilden. I'm like, that music was played 60 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And it's a 10-second soundbite. What's wrong with you, YouTube? So yeah, it's like I said, it's just an interesting part of the experience.
Content creation. It's a fun job.
It is mostly
Honestly,
a fun job.
It is a great job, but there are so many things that people aren't aware of that actually will fully affect your ability to do something, or even your will to do something.
Yeah.
This being one of them. But hey, I guess it's one of those things that just kind of snaps you across the face and tells you to know your role. Because yes, it is time for know your role. Because wherever you go in the world, you should know your role. And if you're a content creator, you should know your role, as you are the end product of something that's being shown out, and that's your ads. But if you're a streamer and if you're an RPer, you should also know your role, because eco RP is interesting in its way that it evolves and folds itself out on top of the communities.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how hard people try, I think Eco is one of those games where you get a lot of meta players.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily mean meta playing between role players or metagaming. I mean more, they're playing the mechanics of the game. Like, they know that in order to get to industry,
Mm-hmm.
they need to go this route. This will be efficient later on, or if I look at the overlays, then I can then see where the oil is that we'll need later on. You know, there's a lot of that, which is pretty much power gaming.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I will say, for as much as I love TLS, I saw so much of it this season.
Yeah.
and especially with the new mechanic that I know we're going to touch on, but talk to us a bit about the latest TLS EcoRP season.
Yeah. So I think the first thing to state up front is that it was tons of fun for the most part.
Yes,
and I think a lot of people had got a lot of enjoyment out of it, and the silliness of the characters and the stories and whatnot. And I think that that's a testament to all the people that were playing their characters and living in the world, to show how much that kind of shone through, even with it being overshadowed significantly by that other stuff that you just very succinctly explained. It was a bit of a roller coaster for me. I had times where I had amazing amounts of fun, and I had times where I was like, oh dear, everybody's just power gaming eco. Maybe I should log off and do something else today, kind of thing. So I think it was about 19 days of the server that I was kind of a part of, and I played on about 15 or something of those, put in a couple of extra shifts, as we usually do for eco. It ended a bit more abruptly than I was expecting and hoping for. I thought we would get 3 weeks of solid RP and then a week of kind of creative and tailing off, and then the new blood coming in. But that sort of churn started happening a little bit after the 2 week point. And yeah, I think that was, I learned a lot of lessons from that. From this season again, which is a good thing. It's always good to be learning from all these experiences, good, bad, or otherwise. And I had to kind of remind myself and be a little bit reminded almost by the community and chat that the majority of it had been good fun, because I got a little bit kind of depressed at one point, thinking, oh, there's nothing I can do to stop this. It's just it's you know, it's gone off the rails. It's all this culture and the politics side of it, or not even the politics really, just the meta and power gaming of the culture and the land annexation and stuff has just become this unleashed demon or something. You know, we dug too deep into culture, and it affected our group less than most, but because we were on a separate continent and we were doing our own silly thing for the most part, or at least that was the attempt, but it did get us as well. Some folks got really deeply sucked into those particular rabbit holes in response to what was going on in the world around them. So it kind of made sense, but I felt personally that there was a greater than usual, which is quite a lot to say for Eco, but there was a greater than usual kind of emotional connection to it became less about surviving the world and the meteor and the flooding and all that, and more about surviving the culture wave, the culture tsunami that was coming. And I think that there's lots of factors to go into that. So I'm very careful not to be critical of individuals that got kind of drawn into that, because that's life, man. You get sucked into it. It happens every day in real life. Why wouldn't it happen in a game as well, right? Because Eco is one of those games that sort of blurs the lines a little bit at times, because it's set in the modern era with, and it's an educational kind of tool. So it's deliberately blurs the lines, but I think one of the big takeaways is that we went into this at fairly short notice after the huge patch that had been a year in development. They went into it with a different kind of team that wasn't able to necessarily put all the lore and the pre-work in place. So we went into it with it's just a vanilla world with a meteor, go. And all this new cool stuff you can muck around with and that. And it almost immediately things split into kind of two camps. The camp of let's do silly RP and jump around in boats and stuff, and embrace all of that new, the new stuff from a creative point of view. And then the other camp that was like, oh, this culture thing could be weaponized and we could take over the world. Let's go. And I think that's a shame. It wasn't what the developers intended to have the Civ style. And honestly, if it was all purely RP, I could actually just embrace it and go, wow, you guys made an amazing story woven into all of that new mechanical stuff. The problem is, or my observation and estimation of it all, is that that's not what happened. What happened is people saw new, intriguing rabbit holes and went down them and in game mechanics, and a lot of people just burned themselves out trying to do the thing, and I didn't see enough role play. I know that Burke as a person tried, and I know that Burke is not all that happy with how it ended up getting utilized and how it ended up going, even if comedically and ostensibly through the stream it would look like he was driving a lot of that stuff. He will, because he's like, he likes PvP, he's a pirate, he lives that whole life. So it's like, if I can take over the world, I'm going to do it in the most silly and audacious way possible, and he's going to make that fun, and thousands of people are going to tune in and enjoy that. The problem is that underneath that there's all the gaming that needs to be done, and the mechanics and all that stuff, and that becomes competitive. So at the top, you've got this figurehead who's having it all sort of comical and wants to achieve it, openly say, oh yeah, heck, I want my nation to rule and do the federation stuff and all that. But the cost of that underneath is that everybody kind of follows that, swarms onto it, and because Eco is so blurred lines as a product, everybody just saw that as like a green light. And this is not, I'm not trying to throw Burke under the bus, but everybody saw that as a green light and like, oh, okay, we're trying to do this, or we're competing with that, go. And then there's a lot of cross-pollination across all the different chats and things, so people will, there's a lot of people that do meta in there as well, even if there's a couple of people that really try hard to put a really thick veneer of roleplay on it, but underneath that they're just mettering the whole heck out of the oh, you just happen to be here, oh okay. There's a lot of that goes on as well. So yeah, and I think it was a great fun experiment. I think that one of the things that came out of it is that we've got a chat group going where we're talking with a few people about how we would like to have some more eco this year, but maybe a little bit less on the competitive side and more on the let's just have some fun, and even if it's just light role play or whatever, and you're more playing the game than role playing, let's do that, but let's not have all of this burning ourselves out on it kind of thing. So yeah, it's really difficult with eco. I think that we as a broader, like speaking as part of the broader TLS community and whatnot, and extended community around it, I think that we can do a lot better. But hindsight's always 2020, right? So we now know, okay, we should have avoided this, and this. There should have been no annexation without out of character agreement, and it should have all been woven into the roleplay stories of the characters and the nations. And if it wasn't, because this nation's on it, overnight, and this one's on during the daytime or whatever, then that doesn't happen. Because what's the point? You don't just march out just to take another territory because then the only reason you do it is because you want to take the resources and own the land, so you're trying to win.
Yeah, you might as well play Risk then.
Yeah, exactly. So I because I saw a lot of people who were trying to give counter arguments around, yeah, but what if you've only got a few hours here and there, and what it's like, well, then don't do that. Then the choice is obvious. You're on a role play, on an immersive roleplay server, then you don't try to annex the next town. If you can't ever talk to them and you can't role play it out, why are you even doing it?
No.
What have you got against them? Oh, you want all the copper underneath their mine.
How about trading with them?
Yeah. So, and it's...
How about trying to figure out a way of cornering the market with them as part of your partnership?
Yeah.
There are much better ways of doing that.
Yeah. So we saw that. I saw that like people like Tyro and that were doing a good job with Canna, where they were deliberately holding technology back because they're very capable, right? They can just power game the heck out of this if they wanted to because they know what they're doing inside and out. But they were like, okay, we're not going to release that technology for 2 days because if we release that now, it's just going to skew the server and everyone's going to be annoyed and it'll get even more competitive. So they would literally just hold stuff back, so it wouldn't come out onto the server at all. And I think that was kind of cool. But then players shouldn't have to be, everybody should be collectively as part of that agreement and that bargain together. Look, if we want to have the best, most amazing, fun, and entertaining roleplay experience in the eco setting, then let's agree that burning ourselves out within the space of 2 days to try and use a civilization style strategy with mechanics that weren't meant to do that and that require us to have top tier rooms and all this stuff that goes with that. In other words, to get to the big rabbit hole, you got to go through all the other rabbit holes before that. Then what's the point? Then you're not role playing anymore. Because I don't remember seeing a character that was like, I am the master and ruler of the world, and I shall be taking all possible measures, and making it a big deal. Like, as a character, name me a prominent character that was doing that. And I'm not saying, and Burke being like, I'm a pirate, I'm going to own the world. That's cool. That's funny. We know he's going to do that. But like, what was driving all of these different, and I watched a few of the other streams as well to try and get the vibe. And there was almost nothing. What I saw was people streaming going, oh man, I've got to spend another 5 hours digging this mine out because we really need these resources so we can do this thing.
Yeah.
So you're not role-playing then?
No. But I would, honestly, with the new system, what I would love to see more of is not that it's used for annexation or anything, not as used for expanding the area around your town in the way that it currently is, but more that how do I describe this? So the incentive to make a place of of spreading culture, like your comedy club, posters, pictures, events happening that people enjoy, and then you have this karma system that kind of which is a great idea. I honestly love it. But yeah, no, people love it there, and they're like, oh, and through that, through the affiliation of the comic club to or comedy club to the town, then that gives the town more more of these claims that it can put out, not
Mm-hmm.
just passively expand where the town could potentially build, but just kind of go, oh, well, this is our claim now. Well, there you go. Then you can use that to expand an already important part for that town, be that the farm or something else,
Mm-hmm.
which would then, at least in my head, it would leave the potential for stuff like I was doing on the stats vacation home, where you have the grand library where great works are being put together, and people can come and watch it and be like, oh, that's good, that's a very cool picture, who made that? Oh, Ivan. All right, +1 to Ivan for that then,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or who told the story of the great trawler wars of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Baltic Battlystrom and his nemesis, Julius Caesar. I don't know. And through that,
Mm-hmm.
build the fame or even infamy of the town.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think that could be a cool way of doing it. But
Yeah.
also at the same time, as if you come in on a server that has the annexation on and everything, I would love to see Julian Chaser come in and be like, I will take over the world because it is my calling.
Mm-hmm.
But then they would have to work really hard to kind of get people in on the idea that yes, we are going to rule the world. We are going to be the Jovian Empire,
Mm-hmm.
the Holy Jovian Empire, or whatever,
Yep.
and then play it that way. I think that could be a cool way of doing it, but you know, but that's coming from a role player.
Yeah.
We need to keep in mind that Eco is in and of itself not role playing in that way. Like, yes, you are playing a role, you're doing your part, and you're trying to achieve something, but it is more meant as a simulation game where you kind of take a third party look at the job you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve. You're not staying in a character to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, it's kind of hard to balance those, but it's definitely been fun to see, because I saw Novo Barovia and the barter system and how you guys did things, and I was like, yeah, no, I like that. I think that's cool. I think that's the way to go for it, where just by doing that, you are naturally um impeding the um the evolution of the world,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because Barovia wouldn't necessarily pop up as a world power in technology and achievability
Mm-hmm.
by itself without working really well together, and also trading the resources you guys had to others so that you could, you know, advance yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Exactly.
and through that, like, it's also part of the whole, oh, so what are you guys getting out of this? Oh, nothing, but be open about it. Yeah, we're this is going to allow us access to this.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, you could then be like, oh, could we maybe get some access to that in that case through our role in helping you? So yeah, sure, and
Mm-hmm.
then that advancement also makes it out into the world, but in a in a less a in a less viral way, I should say.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way of explaining it.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, no, it was fun to watch, but seeing a completely vanilla server with just new mechanics, I yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I think that was mostly just time wise and the limit that they had on the team. But I think that, yeah, overall, tons of fun was had. Um, I think that the Civ style stuff detracted from it significantly. I think more for the players than for the viewers is the kind of overwhelming response that I got from people, because I was like talking to people and like both in and out of stream and being like, I don't feel like that went all that well. I know that some people felt like pretty much, they might not have said it in these words, but I know I've spoken to a couple of people that have like, that are, you know, all still, you know, regulars every year, and they were like, yeah, that wasn't all that good for me. I didn't enjoy that kind of thing. And I had a couple of moments where I was like, this is really like gut wrenching. This is because everyone's focused on stuff that's just not silly and fun. So it was definitely, you know, it definitely lacked a theme. And my idea and theme that I had for a small group of players, because it was supposed to be 4 or 5 of us or whatever in Nova Barovia, was just to do a silly like Dwarf Fortress type thing like we did on the kind of the final day or two. That was kind of because I thought this would be a good way to bring a group together and have them all kind of have some fun together. We're all playing eco, we're all role playing, and we're all doing a silly thing that has no real bearing on the world in a mechanical sense. And I thought that would be good. And within 3 days, we grew to like 20 people or something.
Yeah.
And it all just kind of got, you know, people want to play eco and feel like they're contributing and whatever and succeeding. And I get that. But it all, I let go of the reins, and looking back on it, I regret that I didn't say, okay, let's just gather everyone round and say, okay, our purpose here is to do silly stuff that may or may not bring the world forward very much at all, right? If that's cool, this is the place for you to be. If you want to do more than that, you know, are welcome to live here, but you might want to conduct your business in a different way, or you might want to move to another area. It's totally cool. But this is kind of, should have set the stall out and said, this is kind of what I want our area to focus on, you know. And thankfully we managed to keep the town pretty like cozy feeling, and we got a lot of really good feedback on that, and a lot of kind of appreciation and had fun with people, and a lot of people would come to our town, and ours was the most lively and populated place at the end of the season as well, or the few days that are still going on now. It's been the busiest place for the last couple of weeks because we just made it fun and somewhere nice to go and look at and visit, you know, and hang out with people, rather than it being you're here expressly for the purpose of something mechanical that you need to get done in the game or whatever. So, you know, that part of it worked. And, you know, one of my big takeaways from it, lesson learned, is that I should have made the kind of the goal or ambition at least a bit clearer, and I should have reiterated it, and we should have worked out whether people wanted to work towards that or how they could work towards that and still have fun themselves. And we got there right at the end, and which was kind of like what the you know, where I wanted to get to with this segment as well. We at the end, the last 2 days, I was like, okay, I just want to do this. This is going to be like my last day. Can we just? I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go over there and build the Dwarf Fortress because that's what Mayor Bear's expecting. And I had an ending in mind already. So the ending of Dingus and myself and whoever from the town wanted to, because I wasn't sure how close the others were feeling to doing that kind of surviving in the extreme kind of thing. We had the submarine ending last season, and this season it was I just wanted to dig a big hole in the mountain, like we dug too deep, Moria style, and just have Dingus and Ivan fall into the hole and be like, well, guess we live here now. And then there'd just be like a door or a room like I built. And then there's just a fireplace and a table and a couple of beds. And it's like, okay, we just live here now until we'll give it a year and see what the world's doing, you know, see if it's flooded or see if the water's receded.
That sounds like a good idea, Ivan.
Yeah, exactly. So that was like the ending. And then we just made a day of it. It was like, let's just throw everything we can and make something that looks kind of fun and cool with basic materials, because we don't have all the the top gear because we're not grinding it all out, and it turned out really nice. And I had a really, really fun like last day, and lots of people of the town came and pulled together, and we got nice pictures done and all that, and had all those silly jokes and a good laugh. And overall, people were like, "Oh, that was amazing! I can't believe it's sort of ending and all the rest of it." And it's like, well, you know. And the funny thing was, a lot of the players were like, "Why didn't we just do that from the beginning?" And I was like, "This is literally what I brought everyone together to do. Was that I told everybody in advance. I DM'd the people that were in. I was like, look, let's do this. What do you think?" And they were like, "Cool, I can be part of that." And then, like I said, it just kind of ballooned out of control, and then the whole culture thing kicked off as if people realized after 3 or 4 days how it could be used. And yeah, and that's it. The thing just snowballed out of control, and I feel sad that I didn't keep the cohesion and get everybody together. But I tried to do it with a light touch this go around, like not like Atlas, where it's like I have a Discord and I have all the crew on the Discord, and I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing, and this is where we're going to meet, and all this kind of thing, because you've got to do that for the full immersive roleplay with a big group. You can't do it any other way. And because this thing snowballed from 5 people that you could DM to like 20 people, a lot of whom I didn't even know or even see because of hours of being on and all that, it was like, okay, it just became complete, in air quotes, chaos. People just doing what they wanted to do, which is cool. I'm not criticizing anybody playing the game how they want to play, but 20 individuals doing whatever they want versus 20 people working as a team, or even 5 people working as a team like we had on the final day. Look at the difference. In one day we built a dwarf fortress.
I think it would be really cool to have an eco server where there's a grand goal of building, for instance, this dwarf fortress or something grandiose, like a large and huge build that it would need several people to build and kind of come together. You would need one person to kind of have the idea of, okay, yeah, this is where we're taking the building now. This is where we're aiming to go with this. But because of the nature of the game, you wouldn't just need builders. You would need people that could get better tools, that could process tools, that could make the food or gather the food or so on. Like you would have to have all of those roles to help out and be part of that larger thing. Because you need all of these things, and not everybody can do everything in eco. And just by the nature of that, you will have somebody who's better at digging out stuff, and that's their role, that's their thing, and they would have to get rewarded for that. That's part of the kind of the collaborative idea that I would love to see, at least.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's what I wanted to achieve. I mean, it's all of that, and then obviously I'm taking it to the furthest extreme possible and say, and you're living as your character in those conditions.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
What does your character feel about having worked digging out the mountain all day? What and then there's nothing to eat except porridge. What does that mean to them? Maybe they're super happy about it. Maybe they're not. And I was missing what I missed. And I think the eco doesn't, or the desire to progress in the game of eco hinders this significantly. Is I'm missing those. You almost need like your Red Dead moments where everyone's just at the saloon now and we sit down and play cards and drink together, because ironically in Red Dead it's almost the other way around. There's not that many other things to be doing in the game.
Yeah.
So you seek people out to hang out and have fun with, because a lot of the other time is dead space or something you've killed 1,000 deer already. You've fallen off a horse 1,000 times. So there's only so much of that you can do to entertain yourself for hours on end. So we kind of need that mashup of eco all day for your character shift, and then Red Dead Saloon, will come to the town square, and that's what I was trying to create with that cozy kind of atmosphere. And I think that's where it differs for me in building. I'm trying to build like a set for people to come and hang out and have some fun together with, rather than, because we got so distracted with all the other stuff that was going on and people trying to progress and whatever. And I also get, like, there was a good points that Damien made, like, not everybody can sit there like me for 10 hours just playing eco, because that's my job as well, and I get that, but the argument of, because they want to achieve this, and this, and they've only got 4 hours before they have to sleep before they work the next day or whatever. My view on that is, honestly, then you shouldn't come into the game trying to do this, and this. If your goal is to get to level 7 mining and make, mining upgrades or, whatever, oil drilling, and you've got 2 hours a day between family duties, work duties, whatever, right? That doesn't match up. You're gonna probably just either feel let down, or you're gonna bury yourself in a hole somewhere, and you're not gonna do any role playing. You're not gonna be playing in the spirit of the theme of the server. And then you might as well play on the community server, because that's all you have to do there is play the game and hang out with people, and it's cool.
So there's a difference between role playing it and playing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a very important thing that I think a lot of people miss out on when it comes to any sort of role playing game, really.
Yeah.
Because you, as a person, you have an ambition, you have a purpose, you have something that you're doing, but then you need to try to bring that with you into your character.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of, I think a lot of people struggle with just that, and this is actually a great segue into my next point.
Mm-hmm.
How do you create the engagement of your character? Because in Eco you have all these mechanical bits that people want to do, but like you say, if it's an immersive roleplay server and you only have 4 hours, then you kind of need to see, okay, what is my character able to do in these 4 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where do I want to spend my time? If, like, by all means, if your fun is digging the mines, go on, dig the mines. But maybe roleplay is not the best place to do that. But then you would possibly also roleplay as one of these kind of secluded weirdos that settle in the middle of nowhere because they don't like people, and the way they choose to communicate is through grunts and waving of knives. That could be a thing. But I recently saw a wonderful video talking about this. Like, how do you create an engaged character? How do you engage your players? And I think a lot of DMs probably have ran into this issue over years, where you've rounded off a long-term campaign where your characters are mostly godlike, and then you start over with something completely new. Like, how do you create that engagement again?
Mm-hmm.
And this video mentioned that, like because sometimes when you come into a role-playing game, you don't know what you want to do with your character. You know you want to role play, but you don't quite have a finished mental picture of yourself even.
Mm-hmm.
And that's perfectly fine. But they were talking about how to create that world, how to create that engagement, and that feeling of what is your character, who is your character.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they did that is they started out by saying, all right, we're going to play a prologue. We're going to play a prologue of 8 sessions. Some of them are going to be solo for your character. Some of them are going to be as a group. And they started out with just 10 in all stats, completely blank, no race, nothing. And then they just kind of slowly role played their way into it.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, the DM introduced, like, okay, between each session, there's going to be a full year passing. so that you have time to say, all right, I want to focus on this during this 1 year, so that you know that, okay, your character is going to progress in its skill with the use of a cello, maybe become a bard. That could be a thing you could do. And the genius part for this came towards the end of it, where the DM introduced, I think it was in session 6, they introduced a friend festival, where it was to enjoy the company of your friends and kind of like a bonding ceremony to one of these NPCs or other people in this town, where you get to enjoy the friendship you have with this person and kind of play on that and give your, like, flesh out your character a tiny bit that way. And then in session 7, having spent a year doing stuff and developing and so on, and some of them even went on adventures with their friend. Session 7 rolls around again, friendship festival. They celebrate, they have a great day, and they go to bed, only to be awoken in the middle of the night of the town being under full attack. Families driven out of their homes, remarkable NPCs that they've developed a rapport with and a relationship with being killed. Because this is the end of the prologue, even though the DM said, oh, we're going to go 8 sessions. No, this is episode 7. The next episode, the next session we start, this is where the party suddenly has a purpose to figure out who would want to attack the town, who would have the motivation to do this, and suddenly your character has a motivation to go out and get revenge for the slain, to get justice, and so on. And that's where your party has fully is kind of coalesced and become a thing, where they have a greater purpose, and all of them have their own role, their own inspiration for being there. And I just absolutely loved that idea, because it is that larger goal they want to achieve. But how do you push your characters out that door and start forming them? And I absolutely love that idea. So to any DMs out there, go forth, enjoy this, or maybe even during character creation, think of these sorts of things. If you ever have something like that come up during a character creation, maybe that's a good place to start.
Yep. Well, that sounds very smart to me. I like it a lot. It's something that I'm always very keen on, is why do your characters kind of care about what's going on in the world, and what are the hooks? Because we've all been there and created like, oh, this is the best character ever, it's going to be hilarious. And then it's like, but they're great in and of themselves, but they could also vanish out of existence and it's kind of irrelevant, or, or they could move to a completely different country in a different city somewhere and it would be exactly the same experience for them. So it's like, what's the, what are the hooks for them and the ties to this place, and why do they care? So the way I've done that is on a slightly smaller scale, where I have, it's essentially the same kind of thing, maybe on a smaller level, of just having certain NPCs and places that they interact with become meaningful to them. Not just because it ties into the story, but because they can, the character will choose on their downtime to go and visit those people, when they're back in the town. Oh, I must catch up with so-and-so. The butcher that sells me the meat for my humanoid eating plant that lives in the sewers, that's called Stevie, and that kind of thing. So it was like they had, and then the time they come back and it's like, oh, unfortunately that butcher had to leave. His family was in trouble and up in a town up north, and then they could go on a side quest if they wanted to like help them out. You could just have that in your back pocket as like a one shot or something, or and all those kinds of things. So I've done like little bits, but the way that more comprehensive, and I really like this idea of stripping the character down. You wouldn't necessarily have to do it with all the mechanics, but you could do if that helps the player. It depends on your players really, but I like this idea of like, you're no one special. You're Johnny on the street corner, and you're just going about your life, and this is what happens on this day. I think that's kind of cool because then you form bonds and relationships that are independent because they precede any of the mechanical skills and classes and all that kind of stuff. It might be a bit tricky for some people who are like, but I'm a sorcerer and I've always been able to do this, or, that kind of thing. But there's definitely ways and means of doing it. But I like this idea of like, first and foremost, they're a person living in the world. And then on top of that, they happen to have some kind of special abilities, or they are working on learning and enhancing those abilities and those skills. I think it makes them, it's like, real life in a way. It's helpful, even though you're in an abstracted world, it's helpful to give players an easy way into immersing themselves in the world, because it reminds us of what we go through in real life on a subliminal level.
And I want to point out to anyone who's struggling with character creation, if you ever have an idea that you think will fit or that you want to play, talk to your DM. The amount of times the DM will go, you know what? Yeah, I'm okay with this. Let's see if we can make this fit. I can almost guarantee there 9 times out of 10 it will work. Maybe even 99 times out of 100 it will work. Because the importance is, of course, you as a player enjoying your time there. So, as an example, I saw somebody who said, all right, I'm a sorcerer that has kind of arisen from street magician kind of magic, but they have no actual control over their spells, but they've put 1,000 different spells of varying levels and degrees and so on into a random roll table. So whenever they do street magic and kind of say, oh, I'll pull this out of the magic hat, and then suddenly they pull out a severed merfolk head, and it was like, oh shit, oops, that's bad. And then suddenly the people on the street are horrified instead of, hey, this was cool, and then it's those little things that lead to a character's journey. So yeah, no, it's always fun to be able to figure out that little bit of motivation and like what brings you further as both a party or even as a single character. Some might even call them community contributions. Yes.
Nice.
And this month, community contributions comes solely from you, Grumbles. If you have the full reins here, you're gonna have to take the charge on this part, because I only see your keywords. I have no idea what this is about.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give a bit of a shout out and some feedback and reciprocal energy back to the community, to all the listeners and people that give us ideas and questions or contribute in all manner of different ways. And I just put some keywords there. But we've had a lot, and like I really mean a lot, or a noticeable increase in like the bond within the community and people, sharing things. And there's a fine line sometimes between the not very helpful and sought after approach of coming in and just dumping your life story into the chat, right? Which I get, but is like completely irrelevant of context of what we're doing, what we're talking about, what other people are talking about and engaging on. That's not what I mean. I mean the little the humble sort of gentle this thing's happening, it could be an anniversary, and we've had lots of people retiring and wishing each other well, and we've had people passing exams, having birthdays, some of the usual things, the rites of passage in life and whatever, but just cheering each other on and sharing these in a very natural and flowing conversation, that I've been noticing a sort of upward trend in just people trusting and sharing in a very fun, reciprocal way, and I really appreciate it and really enjoy it. So I wanted to just bring it up briefly as something that I'm observing and seeing more of, and I really enjoy it. And like I said, it's very distinct from someone who just comes in and like wants to just take over the chat with, here's what I want to have everyone focus on right now. That's not what I'm talking about, and that usually doesn't work very well. It just doesn't gel. It doesn't flow organically into the conversation. That's not to say that people should come in and just keep quiet and only talk about what I'm doing. Is exactly not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's ways to integrate and flow into the chat and the community, and to just bond with people and find all these new friends and people you can just interact with and trust. And it takes a degree of trust and a bit of courage sometimes to kind of open up and connect with people in that way. And it's nice. I really enjoy seeing it, that it's not just people looking for that one-to-one relationship with the streamer, but actually interacting with each other and keeping it all relevant and flowing in a very, very warming, heartwarming kind of way. So I just wanted to kind of bring it up really and give everybody the double thumbs up.
Again, if you had 3, you would give 4.
Exactly. But Frostbite, I mean Frostpunk, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to tie on there, like, because I see it across in multiple different chats. For instance, Bonti pops in, and people are like, "Oh, how many days now, Bonti?" And asking him about that, because he's made a thing of just kind of coming into a chat and saying 49 and a wake up or something like that, And then to people who aren't aware, they're like, that's a weird sentence or something to say. But to those who are aware, like, oh, we're getting close. And this is, of course, him talking about how long until his official retirement. And I enjoy that sort of thing, and because it proves that people are paying attention. People are kind of, it is the community contribution, It's more than just the streamer to one person interaction. It's the community really there, and I do enjoy that. Side note, please do not trauma dump. I will ban your ass. That's how simple it is. I'm not a psychologist. Don't trauma dump to me.
Yeah, we're looking to create happy, fun, safe places to hang out together, but it's not a therapy session. Yeah.
Can I be helpful to friends? Can I be supportive to friends? Sure. But I also want to point out just the absolute critical, important part here, that supporting a friend in what they need and being able to handle a trauma dump, 2 very different things.
Yeah.
2 very, very, very different things. And help to friends, again, it's a community contribution, and that's something that we've seen all the time, and it's amazing to see, and it's good to see that it happens. It actually gives me belief that there is good in the world. Sometimes. And that brings us to the last segment.
Mm.
And good in the world is truly something to smile about. That's very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Do you want to go or should I go?
I mean, I can go first because it ties onto the previous one, so I don't
Yeah?
need to take much time with it. But
Go ahead.
mine was just basically following on from what I said before about all the positivity and engagement within the community. Just Return to Moria was a great example of it. But
So many positive comments.
there's been so many others as well. But the just sharing in the moment together and that good vibe spirit, just seeing people share their feedback as to how the sessions go and the pace we choose and the way we choose to go about playing the games that we do and having fun and how much that kind of means to people and they're enjoying it. It's the right kind of vibe and tone and the right kind of feedback, because it's a confidence thing. This is our job. It's hopefully a lot of fun for us every time as well, but it's we go through lots of stresses and strains and ups and downs and feeling like we are or we're not entertaining, and that's usually the main one. But there's all sorts of things that interweave with that, and it's just been so heartwarming these last the few weeks. Eco's always a big event and a lot of people coming in and a lot of new people coming in, but it's been so nice to see across, for me especially, over the different games and the different genres and everything, that one common thread of all these people coming in, having fun together, helping each other, understanding the difference between backseating and helping my weak memory. It's a very important distinction, and getting that right and understanding it as we go along. And yeah, I've just really, really enjoyed and I want to share and give back how much that means to me, that people are there to share those moments with us and let us know that they like the way we're going about things and the way we're doing things. There's always people who can game better. There's always people that know all the things or have done it 100 times or would do it completely differently or optimally or whatever. But just to have people be able to just plug in and understand, okay, we're off on a silly adventure together. It's really stood out to me, and Moria was a prime example of it on Sunday. It was just nice to do. The Grumbling does Sundays.
So much fun.
Goes to Moria and just have people get it and be like, oh, make sure you let your friends know that you're playing with, that we're really enjoying all of this and the way you guys are going about this together and helping each other and tripping over each other sometimes and whatever. And it was just really, really good to see. So that was my something to smile about.
And it is perfectly segued into my something to smile about, because and I genuinely mean I smiled so much of this because in part of our Moria experience, we suddenly had a horde attack. I wasn't aware that this was a thing that happened. I knew there could be attack waves coming from time to time and your base could be attacked. I was like, whatever, it's fine, But we suddenly had this epic battle go on, and there were so many enemies and so many things. It was chaos. But one thing that made me smile was hearing you like 20, 30, 40 minutes after we were done with that part still be hyped about this last this battle and just seeing your last stand of just working so hard, because I also know that that's not necessarily your mainstay in a game.
No, not at all.
So kind of hearing your excitement and just how hyped up you were about the fight as all, I was like, it gave me such a good chuckle. It gave me a proper smile. And I know Statsbloke really enjoyed it too. Like he said, listening to Grumbles talk about that fight for 20, 30 minutes afterwards, like made him smile so much. And it just proved that enjoyment of that moment that we created.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those moments that I want to create, and not just for our community, but for our fellow creators.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, hearing you be excited about that made me genuinely happy. As a gamer, as a content creator, as a friend, it made me genuinely happy. So yes, that is my something to smile about.
Oh, I can't believe it even happened. Well, that's great. I'm really chuffed to bits hearing that. The whole thing was just a blur. It was like most of these things I go into, and the fighting is just not my wheelhouse. Not very good at it at video games, and it's just not really what I'm into. And it's like, well, I'll fight if I have to. And now, in the moment, it was all kicking off, and you guys were getting surrounded, and I was surrounded. We were running around. It was all chaos, and you're trying to help each other, but it's difficult. But we kept it all. It was a really fun vibe of like, this is a really horrible fight. We probably won't make it out of it. But nobody was getting stressed, or because we were just having fun. We were like, oh god, we literally were in the movie defending ourselves in Moria.
Yes.
Like that's what I took, how I felt in the moment. It just, something switched in my mind right at the beginning of that fight. I was like, oh, this is a fight. I'm going to be rubbish at this. And I thought, it wasn't even like a conscious or nothing I said out loud, but my mind switched to, I'm in there now. I'm Gimli or whatever, and then we're being surrounded by all these orcs and goblins and things, and it's this or die. And I just went in that, and I just tried to play in the game as best as I could, but it was basically just shield bash, run, and it was just and then just stay alive long enough for the others to get back, and then when you guys went down like one after the, I was like, oh no. And then I was like, I don't know what I could do. I'm beaten. So I turned and I sprinted. I was just like, I'm just running away from them. I sprinted as long as I could. And when I sprinted, then I went up some stairs and around a corridor and back down and then across and up again. And I did that like a couple of times. And then it was like, I'm doing it now again. I'm reliving it. I'm going back through it again. So Stats will enjoy this bit of the podcast. But I was like, I turned around and suddenly there was only one of the goblins that was able to keep up with me. All the others had got like lost and confused because I'd really appreciate, because the easy thing to do programming wise would have been you're glued to him. You know where he is magically and you follow him because the code says he's over there and you know that now, right? But instead of that, they had these zones and it was like once they lost sight of me in that, apart from one that was faster to keep up, all the others gave up. So I was then able to start mounting a bit of a comeback, and then you guys were able to get back in the fight and that, and when we finished it. And I still can't believe I actually made it through. It was quite exhilarating because I immersed myself in it. I went into sort of role player brain, and I was like, okay, this is it. If we lose this fight, we've lost. Our attempt to take Moria has taken us. Obviously, game wise, you just respawn and come back in. But like for me, it was like, I can't let them beat me. My character won't be defeated by
the
these
last
horrible...
stand of the mighty dwarf.
Yeah,
indeed. No, it was great. It was great, and I'm looking forward to more of those moments because I have a feeling there's going to be more.
Yeah, and the good thing is that I've got one out of the way because that might be the only chance that I get to do that, and the others I expect you two guys to be the ones good at fighting and everything. So I think there'll be things where, without you guys, we wouldn't make it. I'll get one shot by a Balrog or something, and you guys will be taking him down. But I think that'll fit together really nicely because I hope we get epic moments for each of us in turn, and then all of us I think I can just see how rewarding in a creative and in the camaraderie between us when we get wherever we go in this, when we get to the end or whatever the next big segment is. It feels very, very much like watching a great movie or being part of something special. Like if we hadn't done this together the way we did it and made the choices we did and pressed the button, we wouldn't have been. And it feels more epic than a lot of other games in that regard.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've done a good job with the game, I think, with the immersion.
It's a big adventure together. That's how simple it is. And it's cool. It's so cool. And I'm pretty sure it's going to bring on more smiles. But that's going to be the end of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome again to Season 4 to everyone who's been listening. I hope some of you will consider joining us on Patreon, where we for now can at least guarantee that if you have a question or comment, you will get it in, no matter how long of an episode we have planned. We're going to make time for you. At the very least, you're going to get your answer on Patreon as a Patreon exclusive, and we might do more Patreon exclusive stuff in the future. Make sure to note down where you can find Grumbles and where you can find me. But one last thing I'm gonna impart on you guys is be as kind to yourself as you are to others. Without further ado, it's gonna be a good night for me and a goodbye from Grumbles.
Bye.
Goodbye.